Michelle Arbalim for the special celebration of Pathway in our club.
Thank you very much, Julie. Thank you, and welcome everyone to this special. You know how I feel about Witty Storytellers meetings. Every meeting, we've never had a regular meeting, ever. Every meeting has been special. But this one is what you would call special exponentially, because number one, we have so many friends and regular guests, and some have now become no longer guests, but members. I don't want to forget this later on, so let us. She is now a member. Let's welcome Carol. She's now a member. This is one reason to celebrate. She is finally with Witty Storytellers officially. And then another reason as a very persistent and persuasive vice president for education who suggested, nudged, maybe nagged a little bit for everybody to join. She's shaking her head. For everybody, she has Pathways behind her. For everybody to get involved with Pathways. And of course, third, very special reason, we have 8 storytellers who will be sharing about Pathways in our Pathway celebration. So this is longer than my usual welcome, but I believe it's definitely worth it. Let us all enjoy our meeting. And at this point, yikes, at this point, I'm supposed to welcome the Toastmaster. So please help me welcome the Toastmaster, Michelle.
Yay, Michelle.
Okay, so thank you very much, Madam President, for that rather brief introduction. So as the Toastmaster of the evening, or the morning, or the afternoon, or the day, wherever you are in the world, we are going to have 8 speakers. This meeting is going to be unusual, or to use our president's words, special, in one more sense. We will not have online evaluators. However, please, by all means, if you have not done so yet, for the speakers, quietly chat or text or message somebody with a request to be evaluated written, so that you can get credit for the speech. And also, I believe we will not have a grammarian unless the vice president will start waving feverishly, in which case I will know we have a grammarian. I believe we don't have a grammarian. We also will not have table topics unless I am corrected again. We will just have 8 fabulous speakers. And we do need a timer, though, for something as packed as this. So, Madam Vice President for Education, do we have a timer in the house?
We have timer and we have table topics. Timer is...
Oh, we have table topics. See, I knew that.
Table topic is Helen.
Who is?
Helen.
Speech you have to watch every day was still in my mind. It still plays back. It was one of the best icebreaker speeches I've ever heard, both in terms of content and delivery. She was even standing up. Amazing speech. So Helen is table topics. And who is our timer, Madam VPE? Christian, wonderful. Christian, would you please show us your timing devices so we know, especially for our speakers? Would you kindly show us your timing device? There you are.
This is green.
Where's the green?
Amber.
Oh, that was the green. Okay, can you show it again so we know the difference?
Green.
Can you show all 3 of them so we can see? That one is green,
amber,
actually yellow,
and red.
Okay, so speakers, I hope you're aware. And Christian, because we have a tight ship to run, if they go at 7:30, please lead in the applause. So speakers, you are all forewarned. Our charming, very debonair gentleman will still be a gentleman and start applauding you at 7:30. Thank you very much. So we have a timer. Do we have a grammarian, Madame PP? Okay, so at least I was right on that one. And so I'm going to play this funny game. I hate this phrase. Just for once, I will use it just for fun. Without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker, who is one of the most dynamic members of Witty Storytellers and several other online or several other clubs. She's also very active maintaining the online Toastmaster Club. She prepares excellent promotional material. If you do not like this particular promotional material for this meeting, blame me. I created this one just because I really like Pathways the way I wanted it. Hers are usually more colorful and really beautiful PR materials. Her speech today is leaving me intrigued. It says, I'm reading my tiny iPhone. Oh, okay. Her speech or story has a very intriguing title that I'm looking forward to, and I hope everybody else looking forward to it. Let us welcome to speak about her adventure or an adventure. Let us all welcome Mathilde Fischer.
Thank you. Welcome, dear. That's a black box. I have no idea how this works. But there were so many early adopters in my online clubs. They already took the challenge of doing some of those projects, and I got more and more curious. And I wanted to find out what this was about. But there was one problem. Germany is far in the back with the rollout, so I had to find a club. But with online clubs, it's really great, or clubs that allow online attendance. And there came Zaldi, the star, the Emperor Club, Mandarin Emperor's Club, was where I found my home for Pathways and where I could start. And I really got infected from this Pathways journey. It was such a beautiful thing. It starts like the usual program or the common or old program, as some say. But then you will get into another direction. You find elements from those other things, but there is so much that comes that is new. And what I like really much is that you have all this reflecting. You're thinking about your communication style, about your leadership style. You're doing all kinds of assessments, and it's a beautiful thing. So what was when I went to this other club? I really found it so fantastic to meet people from the Philippines, and the structure there is a little bit different. But everyone is so well prepared. For me, this was a beautiful experience, how a Toastmaster meeting can be conducted. I just chose the dynamic leadership path because I was interested in finding out more about leadership, which help you can get through this project. And for me, it was really good to do this reflection and also get some feedback. And now I'm in the part where I can do the electives, and I love this really much. But what's there is that sometimes, because I'm allowed to do it in several clubs, but they are not all knowing about those projects, sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So with my last project, it's about listening. Actually, in Easy Speak, you can schedule a speech, but you also need to take a role. And their VPE was not familiarized with that, so the person kicked me out again for one role. I should only take one role. And then she said, oh, you'll get your evaluation, so you will anyway get your credits. So this might cause some little trouble when you're getting into new clubs, because people are not knowing about this. And what I also found was that clubs that do not prepare their schedule before, so you in the last minute fix your evaluators, it sometimes does not really work out so good with evaluations because some projects or evaluations are different, and therefore you can not send it, you can send it, but it causes some trouble to do the evaluation in the kind it should be done from the program. So if the clubs are rolling it out, it might be very helpful and very precious to know before who is your evaluator so that you can send your evaluation form already and then find it out. Besides that, I really love this program and I can only recommend everyone to jump in. It is so much fun. There are so many things you can do, you can elect, you can select, and so many also things you can use, like coordinating panels or organizing special events. And when you're choosing one of the passes, perhaps you already have in mind what you want to do, and you can look at this level 3, 4, and 5 if you find something helpful for your personal goals that you would like to achieve there. Another challenge for myself, because I'm not really a very patient person, I always would like to go on, is that you can only see your level other projects to already perhaps prepare. So if you want to move quite far and you want to get through the project very fast, you need to think about taking up a second channel or doing some other projects from the CC perhaps. For me, I took another path and I really enjoyed doing this new Pathways program. Back to you, Mrs. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Well, looks like my little intimidation about being applauded down scared Mathilde. Now, just kidding. Mathilde is non-scarable. She is just really, really organized with her speeches. I have been amazed at how I've never seen her exceed. I think she always stays on time. Thank you so much, Mathilde. And now let us move from Germany. Let us now move zoom over to Canada, to somebody who said to me about an hour and a half ago he was going to take a nap, but then I saw messages from him, so I said, I thought, what happened to the nap? And he said, I am ready to dance. And of course, this gentleman is more than just ready to dance. He is very, very, very ready for Pathways. He was ready for Pathways long before it was called Pathways, when it was still called the REP. For those of you who are wondering what's a REP, REP, the Revitalized Education Program. He was already communicating about it. He was one of the very first to hear our past international president, Pat Johnson, speak about it. And he was fired up, he was excited. And now he's actually pioneering something which is not really officially in the program, but he has created a design for it using Pathways. So he has been doing speechcraft, and so today he will tell us his story entitled Speechcraft in Pathways. Let us welcome the one and the only Sir Brian Dodd.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm just going to share my screen with you briefly. Make sure I've got the right screen. No, I don't want a desktop. The trick is to always share the window. Don't share the desktop. Otherwise, you lose control of what you're showing. There it is. Royal Roads Toastmasters Club Speechcraft using Pathways. I created a page on the club's website. Mind you, you've got to be enrolled in the Pathways, in the Speechcraft program to get access to this particular page. And I've added the link that will take, which takes the members to here. And anybody, they don't have to be a Toastmaster, can start using this link to start their icebreaker speech. And from the reaction I've got from the people who've done their, we have 4 people now that have done their icebreaker. One girl who had never visited the club came in to the meeting with an icebreaker already prepared to deliver at the first session that we had. And she did a terrific job. So that is credentials to the program that Pat Johnson started, ruffle the feathers of the board of directors in order to get them to take a look at the education program they had. And having listened to her today, Pat Johnson, I found out, oh, she mentioned this program that it was based on in her speech, and I did my little research and found out that, oh, okay, some of the some of the government offices in Victoria are already using the, not the Toastmaster version, but the commercial version that is used for them. It is easy steps for you to go through. And the other thing, in my other club, First Canadian Toastmasters, that club that made Toastmasters truly international, I have another page there, and it just says Pathways. And anybody that is not close to a CC or does not have a DTM or close to their DTM, I've started them on this. They start with their icebreaker. I've already had to add the link to download the second project in the Pathways program because it's not rolled out officially in our particular region yet. So they can get started now, and more than likely, there's 2 more months to go, and hopefully I have to add the third project, which will be for them to research a topic and then do a delivery, and that will complete their pathways, although they will still have to go through clicking away on the buttons as soon as they've got access to it to take the self-assessment in the beginning and the self-assessment at the end and tick off all the boxes. I am finding, I took, by the way, I took, one of my CCs was actually the basic training manual that Ralph Smedley created way back in the 50s. And I was using that and giving it to brand new people in the evaluation portion of that manual. This is what we've got today with Pathways. We have that same kind of evaluation regenerated for today. The people who were giving the evaluations were doing a terrific job from the basic manual, and I find that today they do a terrific job once they read what's required to do an evaluation, which is all there on the form. I don't see the timer. So I'll stop sharing my screen here. So I'm encouraging everybody now that starts in Toastmasters. When they're a guest, I direct them immediately to the icebreaker page on Toastmasters International, and I'm telling everybody that whether you're a legacy member or you're a Pathways member, go and do that icebreaker. That is more than just a taste of what the program is. That is getting right into the meat and potatoes of it, of what the Pathways program is. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Brian. It looks like everybody is really staying on time. I was thinking, okay, yeah, I have some time to do some stuff. But yes, absolutely. We are all doing really great on time, which is an awesome thing to do in Toastmasters, despite the amazing stories that are being shared. Brian, I take my hat off to you. We didn't even have prior discussion that you will reference Pat Johnson, but I did mention, I know how much you've been inspired by her, and you just demonstrated that. Now you've inspired me. I think I want to look at Speechcraft in Pathways after listening to your story. Wow. Wow. I know I've been saying wow so often, but it's just a wow meeting, wouldn't you agree? And we've had 3 amazing speakers, and now we're heading up to the 4th one. I love how her speech title already gets me on the first 3 letters. That's actually the only letters of her speech title. This lady, without her, we would not have this meeting, because she is the charter president of Witty Storytellers Online. That's a long story, and I don't want to go into the details, but she and Julie dreamed up this vision of a humorous storytelling club, and then they shared their vision with other people, including myself and several others, and then the vision became a reality. That's why we are here, Witty Storytellers Online. And so I am looking forward to hearing what Svetlana is going to share with us in her story, simply entitled, Why? Let us all welcome Svetlana.
Thank you, my dear fellow Toastmasters, witty storytellers, and guests. There aren't many places where, when you don't know what to say or how to continue the title, the first word will be enough. Why? Why on earth you should, or anyone should or would, join Witty Storytellers Online, a Toastmasters club focused on storytelling and humor. When I think about the answer to this question, there's a picture in my mind's eye. Years ago, I read about a research where there was a bowl of syrup, very, very, very sweet syrup, and ants were allowed for free and without any obstacles to drink of that syrup bowl. And what was happening, of course, they were drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking it. And some of them were, one after another, falling back on their backs with their limbs in the sky. And they stopped moving. They thought they were dead until some other ants came up to them and started touching them, checking up on them. And they suddenly realized that they could move their limbs, and in a short while they were back on their feet and running around. So that reminds me, the syrup bowl reminds me of talents and opportunities and all that love and investment in your education and in you that your parents give you, that your environment gives you. But all of a sudden you get tuned to something, you get addicted to something. It can be coziness, it can be Facebook scrolling up and down, it can be anything else, and you feel like you're dead. You don't want really to change anything. However, you have all these talents, and I am sure, even if you feel dead, even if you don't want to go to any Toastmasters, you don't want to do anything, there are still those loads and loads of talents within you, dormant and waiting to be released. I am sure all of you, and those who have never joined Toastmasters, they all enjoy a nice company. with a cup of tea and a biscuit, where they can share stories and jokes and they laugh. So as a matter of fact, that's what happens in Toastmasters. Toastmasters meetings are a unique product that I would like to identify and to sell to the non-Toastmasters. And the uniqueness of that product is that it's an emotional and intellectual entertainment that we create ourselves. Every Toastmaster meeting is a party. All you need is just to show up and participate. If you're a little bit withdrawn, you don't feel like you want to say anything, you can still be the soul of the party. If you become a timekeeper, you have your little timing devices and everybody will look for you on the screen. If they don't see you, they cannot even speak. And from time to time you come up with a very clever face and you give them the times, how long they spoken. Another thing is that there's a new program in Toastmasters. It's called Pathways. For people who got used to a nitty and gritty competent communication manuals and a couple of advanced manuals, Pathways. It's like a firecracker. It's like an ongoing fireworks with hundreds and hundreds of competent communicators, competent communication advanced manuals. And there's an opportunity for you to come and join it. Well, in Toastmasters, keep bothering you in the good sense. Would you like to do this role? Would you like to do that role? Where is this and where is that? And you have to come out of your shell. Now, what my friend Julie did to me with Pathways, she said, oh, let's do it. You can do it. That's really nice. No, you haven't done it yet. And I was like, I closed my nose and my eyes and I jumped together with Julie into that swimming pool of Pathways. And I joined this very, very, very distant club on the other end of the globe. And guess what? They're happy to see me. And because they're Toastmasters, I know exactly how the meeting is running. And I can take up roles. I can be an evaluator. I can do my icebreaker, and loads of other things. They're waiting for me. They want me there because they need all these roles that I can perform. Okay, there's something else I learned, and I thought it related to Toastmasters. Like ants, we're also social beings. And some people love cats. I do. And a research about cats really got me thinking. Guess what makes cats happy? What makes cats happy? What makes your cat or your neighbor's cat happy and hold its tail up? It's knowledge. It's problems. Actually, cats, like little predators, they're so close to the nature, they want their minds to be stimulated. And I thought, well, I am like a cat. I like to have my mind stimulated. I like research. And a research can be not only already read. Well, that's Toastmasters for you. I have 10 to 12 minutes speech, if our timekeeper is aware of that. Is it already 10 minutes?
You're listed on the agenda. You're listed on the agenda as 5 to 7. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. So you can correct as you go. Just be bold. Right. So, and learning and sharing is part of what we are and who we are as humans. We are walking brains. We are walking, eating, learning minds. And anything we consume, from food to love and friendship to new information, is the knowledge. And that knowledge you want to share. When this is something that will make you bigger. If you share, if you give part of yourself to your Toastmaster community, this will actually make you bigger. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I apologize, Svetlana, if you were 10 to 12. I was not aware of that. I was looking at the guide of speeches that was sent to me. And I believe our timer also was not aware. But it was great considering that you had an aborted speech. I love the nitty-gritty of the CL and the CC manual. And Svetlana and I are actually club mates in this distant club. For her, it's distant. For me, it's, well, when I'm in Oregon, it's close. Now it's also distant. We are club mates in Yakina Toastmasters, now famous for its blogs, and Laurelie Norris, who is an awesome VPPR. So thank you so much, Svetlana, for sharing that. And I love the fire, the ice cracker, the firecracker. I love that. I loved your speech. I'm sorry you didn't get to finish everything. Now, I apologize to everybody. And Christian is raising his hand. Christian, did you want to say something?
I would like to confirm with the remaining speakers if your timing is of 5 to 7 minutes. If it is, please confirm in the chat. Thank you.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
All of them
Okay.
are the same because we have too many speech too.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam VPE. As we know, the VPE is the boss, and the Toastmaster follows her, even the club president, at least in this club. Julie is shaking her head. I actually committed a faux pas. I was so excited reading the 3-syllable title for Svetlana's speech and thinking about Simon Sinek's Golden Circle of Why that I ended up introducing her first before actually the third speaker, who should have been Paul White. To my consolation, though, Graham quickly said he doesn't see Paul White here. So before I introduce someone who's not here, Paul, are you here? Can you unmute yourself and say you're here before I introduce you? And can those who are better with eyesight please check the chat to see if he's there?
Paul was here for about 90 seconds before the meeting began, but then he dropped off before the meeting actually began. He was having difficulty, it looked like, with his computer.
Oh, so Graham, what you're telling me is that my mind intuitively skipped Paul without realizing it because he wasn't there. Thank you, Graham.
That's your excuse and you're sticking to it.
Yeah, that's my story. That's my Pathway celebration story. Now I do see her. I love how this next speaker is so organized. I just saw her. She unmuted herself, ready to be introduced. And so all the way from down under, Australia, one of the most prolific and hardworking, and I don't have enough adjectives to positively describe Carol McCulloch. She just takes the initiative and so many things, and she's so organized and so quick to learn. I remember I was way ahead of her on Pathways. She was still asking questions, and then she got into Pathways. The next thing I know, she was answering questions which I didn't even know about. So today we will hear the story of our brand new latest member of Witty Storytellers Online with a speech entitled Voyage of a Pathways Guide. Let us welcome Carol.
I am a Pathways guide for 2 districts, 70 and 73. Now I'm trying something here. Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
In my visits, it is huge. Many of my club visits required 300 to 500 kilometre travel and an overnight stay. But that's a whole other story that I'm not going to tell you today, Toastmasters and guests. My tale today is about all of the great things that have happened in my voyage so far. And some of you may already know that I've started compiling a series of blog articles about the voyage. And today I am taking a lead from my own writings and giving you my story as the hero's journey, from the call to adventure right through to finding the elixir. I do have slides, but I'm going to reserve those until the end. I may even take some of Svetlana's minutes, who knows? Right at the beginning of my journey, I didn't have much clue as to what I had to do. I was all at sea. I felt like I was transported onto the Pathways treader. That's the name of the ship, a magical ship, just like the Dawn Treader in C.S. Lewis's book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. But I needed to look ahead, and I did not have insight. I was not yet fully aware of all that was in base camp. So I was still brand new until the day of enlightenment. And I have to explain that for you as I go along, because there are parts of base camp that a Pathways guide does have access to. Some of the secret corridors that you can enter by a back door, they were there. And I could actually see all these wonderful artifacts in the resource library. A bit like glittering items in a cave. I could just pluck them off the shelf and have a look. And then it's nothing like a trance. I go into transcript. Had a look at the Pathways guide task list, and that was a dozen or so items spread across a period of time. And I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? However, along the way, there were some tests for me as the guide and some allies that I could call on to help me with those tests. And in this voyage, of course, you can expect a few dragons to pop up. And the first dragon that I had to face was passing a test. I didn't expect that. And you had to get 100% on the test. And this was one of the questions that I remember asking Michelle earlier in the piece. And my heart skipped a few beats. However, with a few queries, I was able to get over that tricky question and move to enlightenment. In the story of a hero's journey, you know that they have to cross the threshold from the ordinary into the unknown. So by the time I did get into base camp and began my exploring, learning and understanding, a whole month had gone by. I began the journey in September last year. I didn't have a map then, but I had lots of buddies. And that's what you need when you're starting off as a Pathways guide. And in the distance, there were these guiding lights, a bit like the lights that you would see in the lighthouse when you are at sea. And these lights were coming from WHQ and the webinars that we were able to attend. I'm going to flip through so I can see my timer. So all was not lost. I'd crossed the threshold, and then I could call on my mentors. I could call on my captains, my program quality directors, my PQDs. 2 of those I had, so I was blessed. And then I found some Pathways pioneers. I found Julie and Mark, and I was further enlightened by getting insights through their eyes, because they already had the secret entrance to the chamber. Approaching the sacred chamber, everyone was getting excited. And the Pathways guides all knew that they had to reach this magical number of 75% of all clubs visited in order for your region to roll out. No pressure. However, we were good. We were reminded frequently, and we made it. And we did roll out on the date that was expected. So the sacred chamber was within my grasp. And then when I got inside, you know, it was a bit like TARDIS. If you know the stories about TARDIS, it's much, way, way bigger on the inside than it looks from the outside. Many levels, many rooms, and a huge library of resources. And now the paths began to make sense to me. Now I could track everything that I was doing in order to support my people back in District 70 and 73, the base camp managers. So I felt much more at ease with my journey. I could now grab all those helpful resources. I've called them the elixirs. These are for the aches and pains that many of our intrepid Pathways explorers will encounter. The elixirs are in the form of these tablets of truth, and you'll find them behind the door to the navigator, which is guarded by the second dragon in my story. But he's much friendlier than the others. So I'm pleased to say that we've come to the other end of that part of the voyage. But my task is not yet finished. I now begin a new crusade in my virtual support sessions. Of course, these will all be done in Zoom. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Carol. What an amazing speech. I love your use of English vocabulary. We don't have a grammarian now, but wow. I would like a copy of that, of those beautiful words. You just use words so powerfully. Thank you so much. And we now move on to another Pathway story from another pioneer. Unless, of course, Paul is back. Would somebody please holler if he is back? Or Paul, if you are here and you hear me, could you unmute yourself and we will go right back to you?
He's
Still
not
no
here.
Paul.
He is not, or he is?
He is not.
He's not available. Thank you, Sudha. So we will now move on to our next Pathway storyteller. This time, I was going to say all the way from the Philippines, and then I realized, wait, I am in the Philippines. So we are neighbors within the metropolis of Metro Manila, a pioneer in online clubs, and perhaps right now the only person who understands online attendance in the Philippines. He has, I'm not sure if he has 2 or 3 clubs ongoing, pre-charter, and he has been also involved with Pathways. He is very helpful when it comes to coming up to help people with their timekeeping or any other role where he can help. And in this case, I'm trying to figure out what his title means. I still don't know. So why wait any further? Let's hear his speech, not just speaking anymore. Please help me give Zaldico a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Pathways was rolled out here in the Philippines July 25, 2017. And to speed up adoption, I thought that technical and a persuasive approach, communication approach would be best. When I say technical, it's not being technical, but presenting it in a layman's words, those things that are technical, and persuasive is to approach it like a advertising copywriter. So how do I describe Pathways? How do I compare Pathways to the legacy program? Simple. By just showing 2 phones. I don't have the phones right now. I compare the legacy program to a classic Nokia phone, which you can call and text, and the pathways to modern day, a current day smartphone like the iPhone and the Android. So which you can also call and text, but you can do a lot more with it. So my introduction to Pathways actually began 4 years ago when I found this book, Platform by Michael Hyatt. Okay, let me read 2 paragraphs from the book. Very simply, a platform is the thing you have to stand on to get heard. It's your stage. But unlike a stage in the theater, today's platform is not built of wood or concrete or perched on a grassy hill. Today's platform is built of people, contacts, connections, followers. Your platform is the means by which you connect with your existing and potential fans. It might include your company website, a blog, your Twitter and Facebook accounts, an online video show, musician, or entertainer. It might even include traditional media such as newspaper column, magazine articles, or radio show. It most likely will include a combination of all these items. How many of you remembered way back 2014 when the National Speakers Association rebranded itself as Platform? So that gave me a clue where then the REP was headed. So in a sentence, I just say, Pathways is just focusing on a wider spectrum of communication than the traditional program. Okay. So the uptake in our district was a little slow, but it was speeded up by 13 members. 13 members from other districts who joined my club because of the online attendance. So I had to provide technical support to 13 of these people, and I had to do it by instinct, even as did not have uh, training. Only if I have questions, I would ask Julie, and Julie would guide me. And so usually my communication style is via screenshots. Screenshots to instruct how to navigate Basecamp, etc. And if it becomes a little more, it needs more detail, we zoom in into the members screen and see what's going on, and that's the way I troubleshoot it. So, okay. So as you can see, as I said, that we cover a wider spectrum of communications like blogging, um, and social media and webinars. Some people have not experienced this. Like podcast, I just say it's a radio show on the internet. A, a blog is a weblog. It's just like an editorial on the internet. A webinar is just like a seminar on the internet. So my journey here in Pathways is just beginning, as I might be chosen as the next chief Pathways guide because the uptake has not been high, and I will be delivering a webinar on online attendance, which will be a project in level 4 in Pathways. So that will be 8 o'clock be at 8 o'clock in the morning, just before all those training that had been previously scheduled. And I would approach this like, okay, when I present the online attendance thing, how many of you have watched TED? Okay, because people watch TED online, but but some of them attend it on site, because there are TEDx that are held everywhere. And to convince them to get into the online thing, I will present a picture, just a mere picture of a heavy traffic, and to tell them that it's easy, I'll just tell them the price of the professional equipment is just the price of a cell phone. And by during my Pathways Icebreaker, I said I'm having my biggest communications challenge.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zaldi. We loved your speech, and we regret that you have reached the 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay, one sentence left.
Okay.
No problem.
Go ahead. One sentence.
Now I'm into my biggest communications challenge, which is to persuade a district to adopt Pathways.
Thank you, Zaldi. And you know that I am your ally on that. Zaldi is referring to District 75, which is a very unique district. It's my home district, the Philippines. So I know what Zaldi is talking about. Thank you, Zaldi, for sharing that exciting journey and challenging journey. And now, our next speech, and I've just quickly checked, Paul is still not here, but somebody please tell me if he suddenly shows up. I will go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Graham is today doing a speech from the Innovative Planning Path. It's the first of 2 versions of a speech he is giving. The second version will depend on the advice he is given in his evaluation, which, by the way, he has just used the share file option and has added his evaluation on the chat for anybody who wants to give him feedback. Graham spent more than 2/3 of his life in radio. That accounts for the wonderful voice. But even before then, pop music was an integral part of his life. That one I didn't know. To explain why, here's Graham Cairns with his speech entitled "The Path Was Deep and Wide from Footsteps." Let us all welcome from down under Sydney, Australia, Graham.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. It was 1968. I was 10 years old, and a song came on the car radio as we drove across the city to my grandmother's home. It was a boppy, up-tempo country crossover song with driving drums and an insistent rhythm guitar. And then O.C. Smith began singing. Well, the path was deep and wide from footsteps leading to our cabin. Above the door there burned a scarlet lamp, and late at night a hand would knock, and there would stand a stranger. Yes, I'm the son of Hickory Hollow's tramp. So why did that song have such an impact on a 10-year-old boy that I still picture that scene 50 years later? It was because I was so angry at the unfairness of it all. For those not familiar with the song, it's about a single mother raising 14 children after their father runs off with his mistress. She turns to prostitution after pledging that their children would never have a hungry day. Oh, it wasn't that the mother was forced into prostitution that made me angry. I was, after all, only 10 and I didn't fully realise the ramifications. But I was angry that the townsfolk had ostracised her just for doing what she needed to do to raise her kids the best way that she could. Yes, even at 10 years old, I was a social justice warrior. But the thing about that song is that it's about prostitution and child abandonment and death and grief, and yet it reached top 10 status. Why? Because it was wrapped up in 3 minutes and 44 seconds of near-perfect pop music. You see, pop music isn't just, as Paul McCartney sang, about silly love songs, although he also sang What's Wrong With That, I'd like to know. Ed Sheeran currently has a hit, which reminds me an awful lot of my relationship with my wife Shirley, when he sings, I found a love to carry more than just my secrets, to carry love, to carry children of our own. In fact, pop songs have largely charted Shirley and my life together. The Hollies Too Young to Be Married mirrored the strains and stresses of having a young family on a single income. They find it hard to make ends meet, but they don't mention it because they have each other. Or as Tanya Tucker sang in Two Sparrows and a Hurricane, the world says they'll never make it, but love says they will, and we have. But as I say, pop music is not just about love. It's also about issues, and sometimes they are really big issues. Clarence Carter in Patches told a coming-of-age tale where a young man has to take on responsibilities far beyond his years when his father dies. Sometimes I felt I just couldn't go on. I wanted to leave, just run away from home. Then one day a strong rain came and washed all the crops away. At the age of 13, I thought I was carrying the weight of the whole world on my shoulders. But he doesn't give up. He struggles on because, as Shakespeare puts it, needs must when the devil drives. I mentioned this song in particular because when it was a hit here in early 1971, I was 13 years old, the same age as the protagonist. And it made me reflect both on my incredible good fortune and ask myself whether I would be able to keep my commitment under such pressure. A few years earlier, Barry Maguire's Eve of Destruction addressed hypocrisy when he sang, hate your neighbour, but don't forget to say grace. He also talked about fear. If the button is pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save if the world's in a grave. 20 years later, an Aussie band, Hunters and Collectors, lamented misplaced dreams when they sang, started out seeking fortune and glory. It's a short song, but a hell of a story. Yes, we raised 4 corners of the globe for the Holy Grail. It's all a bit depressing, isn't it? But it's not all doom and gloom, of course. Popular music can also be affirming. For example, Savage Garden once sang, I believe your parents did the best job they knew how to do. And Rosella, in Everyone's Free, reminded us, we are all a family that should stand together as one, helping each other instead of just wasting time. Now is the moment to reach out to someone. It's all up to you. The impact of popular music on me has, I hope you can see, been quite profound ever since my childhood, and it continues as I today approach 60. Christina Aguilera, for example, addresses my occasional tendency toward melancholy and self-esteem issues. Every day is so wonderful, and then it's suddenly hard to breathe, she sings. But then she goes on, I am beautiful, no matter what they say. Words can't bring me down. That inspires me, as does Imagine Dragons. I do whatever it takes because I love how it feels when I break the chains. Those are songs that inspire me. Those are songs that move me. And that's something that pop music can do. So today, as I look back to that car ride in the summer of 1968, to that wedding day in 1979, to the radio station that I managed in 1993, to the music that I listened to this morning as I went for my daily walk, I can only quote from ABBA, the ultimate pop band of the 70s, who's saying, thank you for the music, for the songs I'm singing. Thank you for the joy they're bringing. Who can live without it? I ask in all honesty, what would life be? Without a song and dance, what are we? So I say, thank you for the music, for giving it to me. Madam Toastmaster.
So I say thank you for the music and thanks. Thank you, Graham. That was an amazing takeoff on Pathways. I kept on listening and trying to figure out, okay, where's the Pathways there? And it suddenly dawned on me, well, his title is talking about the path. And somehow I was picking up, there was this, is it allegory or analogy or metaphor to how paths can take different turns. In
Indeed.
fact, often serendipitously unplanned or unexpected, which is a perfect segue to our next speaker, whose life is using the music that has been inspired by a previous speaker, whose life she likes to encapsulate with the title of a 60s or 70s album and big hit by Carole King called Tapestry. This speaker believes that her life is like a tapestry of rich and royal hues woven together. And if you understand what a tapestry is, you have to see the threads. And sometimes one thread goes this way and that way, and it can start here and end up somewhere else, which is a very good metaphor or analogy for the speaker's life. And she is speaking on Pathways. Her experiences, well, one of her experiences in Pathways, especially the potholes that she encountered in Pathways. Let us all welcome Michelle Albalim, speaking about the path less traveled. Thank you very much, Madame Toastmaster. And I don't know how you knew that part about tapestry. You must be a mind reader. Indeed, my life is like one of Robert Frost's poems when he says, I stood in front of two roads, one leading down a path entangled underbrush, and I hope Robert Frost does not turn in his grave for my mediocre paraphrasing of his classic poem. But truly, that is how my life usually goes. For those who have heard me share, I am very, very yellow, which means I'm extremely spontaneous. Sometimes gets me into trouble, often gets me into trouble. But also, how I got into Pathways was exactly that way. I had volunteered to be a Pathways ambassador for District 7. But back then, early 2017, we had absolutely no idea what we were supposed to be doing. And we were asking our chief ambassador, who very diplomatically and euphemistically replied that she also had absolutely no idea what we were supposed to be doing. And I looked at the schedule on the Toastmasters rollout, and it hadn't initially said the months, but it said the quarter of the year, and it seemed to be approaching. And then I realized that what's going to happen is this is going to be almost back then, like the blind leading the blind, except maybe the other blind one, the one leading, might be a little bit ahead on the path. And I thought, well, I don't like that. I need to find out something that I can share. And as already mentioned by one of our previous speakers, I get this enlightenment. We have online clubmates who have trailblazed. They have gone ahead. And so Julie and Brian were both saying, you can find out about Pathways by joining a club that accepts online attendance. And I'm like, voila, I can do that. And so I started searching in District 57, which was the first district, pilot district. I saw a few clubs that said online attendance. I emailed them, but crickets, didn't hear any response. I was getting desperate because our Toastmasters or a conference was coming up, our spring conference was coming up. And I had volunteered to speak about Pathways. And other than what was on the international website, which they could all access as well, what was I going to talk about? So I went over to District 27. I messaged those that said, I think there were about 3 or 4 that said they had online attendance. And very quickly, I got a response from past District Governor Ralph Jones, who was the VP Education for making better consultants easy. This was a club that met in Arlington, Virginia. And this is probably the quickest that anybody became a member. That afternoon, after I received his message, I downloaded the form, filled it out, put in my credit card information, emailed it to him and said, this one is for Toastmasters payment. I will write you a check for whatever your club dues are. And I was doing this blind. I didn't even know what the club dues would be. And I was like hoping, oh gosh, I hope it's not going to break the bank. So I sent it to him and he sensed my urgency. I did share the urgency that I needed to learn firsthand about Pathways because I was going to do a talk in a couple of weeks, actually in a week. And so that very night, bless his soul, he signed me up. I see a welcome to, you know how Toastmasters sends you this cute little welcome message, making it sound like a new member. So I was a member of Pathways. I got access to my base camp, and like other speakers have shared, it was amazing. I was meandering down this path and checking this and checking that. And man, did I feel so ahead of the pack. I was the only person back then in District 7 that had base camp access. And so during the spring conference, I showed my Pathways access through weak internet. I showed them, I mentioned the pop-up blockers. I felt good. And then came the first pothole. I became the first C. There are 3 potholes I share. I became complacent. I was like, hey, I'm ahead of the pack. I'm okay. I did my icebreaker so that I would know what it was all about. And then I completed level 1. And guess what happened? Nothing. Exactly. I didn't do anything. That was several years. And I still haven't moved on. Complacency. And there was another related pothole to that. I liked being in my comfort zone. I loved the advanced manuals. They were so easy. Speak to inform, facilitating discussion, storytelling, one of my favorites. So many different advanced manuals. I already had them in my head. I knew what the projects were. And so I kind of stayed there in my comfort zone just because it was more comfortable. And the third pothole that I experienced was conflict. No, not conflict with people, no drama. Conflict of time. I was involved in so many other things. I was starting Global Trainers Online. I started the Pathways Forum. I was helping to coach various people. It was just so much fun. And I realized I haven't had time to do my own path. So those 3 potholes are all small enough that I can jump over them, and I should hurdle those potholes. They're just part of being in that path that meanders through the underbrush. Thank you, Julie, this particular program has helped me to realize, this particular meeting has helped me to realize that I have not moved on my path for more than 7 months. And yeah, right, 7 is my favorite number, but not that kind of 7. I need to break out of that. I need to get out of these little potholes and get back on my path. I even got my second path, but I haven't started on it. So this speech celebrates my restart on Pathways. I am back. This is my icebreaker. And I thank everybody for helping me along this path. I am just waiting for Christian to clap me down now. Actually, I'm watching with my own time. No, it's not your time, right?
What I'll do.
But anyway, so it's fun to be on Pathways, to be here celebrating with friends. There you are. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster. I wanted the official timer to do that. And Christian obliged me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your potholes in your Pathways journey. And again, last chance, I guess. Is Paul back? Has he come back to join us to deliver?
He has a power.
Sorry.
He cannot come.
Oh, he cannot come. That's too bad then. So, Julie, it looks like we will have 7 speeches then instead of 8. I'm just kidding. I have this obsession with 7. And so our final speaker, we're saving the best for last. Our final speaker is none other than the lady whose name has been mentioned several times already throughout the meeting as the pioneer, the inspiration, and yes, the little nag sometimes. She always says no, but some of the speakers did mention that she was very persistent in reminding them to get on Pathways. And true enough, her speech or her story tonight is entitled A Pathways Club Online. Let us all welcome the creator of the very popular Pathways Experience blog, the one and the only Julie.
Dream a big dream. Have a huge vision. We had a huge vision already, me and Svetlana, and we created a new storytelling club online, the first specialty club. So what could be another dream? I asked myself. Why should I take on the visionary communication path when I had already a dream? But, you know, you cannot have all the virtues. And from 2010, when I heard Pat Johnson, then international president, telling that he just learned how to be international president in May, when it was almost finished, I told myself, then I can be also president. Then I can also have a courage to do things if she can tell it. And when she began to create a new educational program, which at that time was called Revitalized program, I was waiting for it to come and waited years and years. And as you know, I am not a patient. That is not one of my virtues. And so what I did, as soon as Brian and I heard that there is a club there who admits online remote attendance, we jumped on it. And we jumped on Pathway wagon. Yeah, my beautiful picture that I got yesterday. And I went yesterday already to my first meeting visit as ambassador. And I begin to speak about Pathway in Storytellers Club. And you know what I learned? I can do nothing without a team. Teamwork is the name of the game in Pathways. And teamwork was done wonderfully in Witty Storytellers online. I didn't have a team which was led by me. I had a team which came as soon as we wanted to do something together. So when Michelle heard that I went to interview George Marshall for my research in my first level, in my first path, she had looked and seen him asking for a place, online place to speak. And she came to me, Julie, Marshall can come to us. I invited him. And in May, we were the first online club who held a whole Pathway program meeting. And this went wonderfully. Not only George Marshall came, but Paul White came to speak to us, and Brenda came, who was a guide already, and Victoria made her first speech, Icebreaker, And we had already then, in May last year, pathway topics. And all went well. And I think from then on, each of us tried slowly, one by one, to come into, of course, I a little bit nudged, I a little bit told everyone, do you want a pathway club? Zaldi is there. Or Michelle can give you a club name. Or we have a new club. We helped each other, and Zaldi was one wonderfully who welcomed everyone between us, between the one who used Pathway. And slowly our members number who were in Pathway grew and grew and grew. And last time, the last one to join Pathway in our club is none other than Krishan, who joined Pathway half an hour before I had to speak on online alliance and tell them, now we are 82% on Pathway in our club. And we are the only online club who has so many members on Pathway. And then I had a meeting again with my committee member of high performance leadership. And Paul and Brian agreed that we have done a wonderful job, and I can give now my last speech of the high performance leadership about. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I really believe in Pathway. And that photo, you see, it was yesterday. Samir is guide and I was ambassador, and we went to, how can I finish my screen sharing?
We see it.
Yeah, but I want to finish here. Stop share, yes. So now we are here all, and now we are celebrating all together. Wonderful celebration of being on Pathway in our club. 82% of us. There are even not many who have been in Pathway for long in region who have 82% attendance as we have. But most important, we all can share our own stories together. And potholes, we have many. But we have a wonderful team, and the team effort always wins.
Go ahead, one sentence.
Yes. My last sentence is, I heard yesterday again, Justin Trudeau from Canada telling, you have only two choices because change arrives. You can try to fight against it and pull it back as much as you can, or you can go with it and lead it. Be a leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I know Julie won't mind that I started applauding her again, because she is a leader by example, and we were well past the 7 minutes and a half as our timer would confirm. So thank you so much, Julie. That was really a fitting end to our stories, our Pathway celebration stories. And now, from those prepared speeches, we will move into our impromptu portion of the meeting. And I am so delighted every time I see Helen. I am just so delighted, because the first time I saw her at our meeting, she was saying, oh, I'm just checking things out because in my neck of the woods down here, in Australia, we don't meet during certain times of the year. I'm just checking things out. And so I was expecting she'll just check things out and, not come back. But then she was there again the next meeting and the next. And before you know it, she officially joins the club. I think she could not resist the magic of Witty Storytellers. And she has been very... Now I'm looking forward to amazing table topics questions. Let us all welcome.
And just before Helen begins, because you're still muted, Helen, Christian, I think, has to go, so I'll be taking over as Toastmaster. So your table topics, 1 to 2 minutes, Helen?
Yeah. I'll put all the timings in the chat. Thank you, and have a good session. Bye-bye.
Great job,
Thank you,
Christian.
Bye.
As we've been discussing pathways today, I decided to follow the journey of life and our path through the journey of life. And my first question is, please tell me about a rough path that your life has taken you on. Sudha. Is Sudha still here?
Taken me, if I could remember, it was 2008. It is still hard for me to go back and think about this path. 2007 and 2006 has been a little bit downhill, and 2008 really put me down, and as if thousands of people are standing on my head and stamping me down, where I would go under and would disappear. It was not easy to get up and push everyone down and say, look, I am here, I'm still alive. As long as I'm breathing, I would get up and start running. But my legs were so hurt, I couldn't even move. That path did lead me to a realization that how strong I am, how far along I've come, how many have mentored me to this phenomenal journey, which is going to take me in a different direction. That path is me becoming another Sudha. Sudha, who is the leader who never thought could be. Sudha, who is stronger than anyone who never thought she could be. 4 foot 10 inches, stood tall like 6 feet, stamped around, roared, cried. She carried along the path with pride, irrespective she was homeless. She didn't know where the next food is going to come from. She didn't know whether she would be alive next day. But she stomped. She reached her goal. Thank you very much. Back to you, Toastmaster. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Sudha. That is a very emotional table topic, and it shows that we grow from our challenges. For the next table topic, please tell me a point in your life where your path took you on an exciting adventure. Fabiola. Are you there, Fabiola?
No, I believe she said she had to go.
Okay. Christian, would you like to say?
Christian's also just gone.
Christian's gone? Okay. They are the people who I thought have not had anything to say yet. So I will pick someone who's already had something to say. Matilda's already gone too. And so Carol.
You can tell one.
Julie, would you like to tell me an exciting path that life has taken you upon?
Yes, but perhaps after me, you can tell table topics. Helen.
Yes, excellent idea. Excellent.
So
I second that. Helen, you tell us.
Yeah, yeah. We want Helen.
First Helen, and then I can answer.
I've never had a meeting backfire on me before. An exciting path would have to be I thought I was asking the question, so I don't have anything prepared. In 2015, I decided I was going to go for a walk. And I had a plan to go for this wonderful walk. And I was going to go alone. But my family wouldn't allow me to do this. They said, no, Mum, you just can't do that. My mother also said, no, Helen, you can't do that. So my husband decided to come with me. We decided to walk across the north of Spain. We started in France and did the Camino de Frances. It was the most fabulous journey, and we met some wonderful people. And as Sudha has just said, from your challenges, you realize your strengths. I probably didn't believe in my mind when I started that I was going to be able to walk for 40 days and sleep in hostels of up to 70 people in a room. But when I got to Santiago de Compostela, I had achieved one of the most exciting things in my life. And I had done it for myself and by myself, even though my husband was there with me. And I told him many, many times, you better go home, because he was attempting to suggest ways that this journey should go. And that would be the most exciting path of my life. And back to Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Helen. I just love how Helen segued into the table topics speaker from table topics master. And I love how the club members just said, we want Helen. We are now getting really close to the end of the time. The time was really well spent. We had 8 scheduled, 7 showed up, but the time we took trying to locate our 8th speaker, or Paul, plus the fabulous speeches, and of course the little bit over speaking Toastmaster, sorry, because the speakers were so good. We are now approaching the end of our time. I believe I do not see any general evaluator schedule.
Sudha, general.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Sudha, before I ask you to speak, I will request this one time to have a 5-minute extension to our meeting so that we can have time to hear our general evaluator speak for the usual 3 to 5 minutes. So let us welcome one of the dynamic members of Witty Storytellers Online. You heard from her how she has been engaged in various endeavors as well and challenges, and she always comes up with becoming a better person. And so I'm looking forward to hear the general comments from our general evaluator. Let us all welcome Sudha.
Thank you, everyone. Wow, what a wonderful speakathon or storython, I must say, on Pathways. This is the best. Up until last minute, I was hesitating to come online because my head was thumping away. And I thought, if I go, my headache will go. It did happen in first 5 minutes. Mathilde, she gave us everything what I felt as well at the same time. So it made it so wonderful. And Brian coming along and giving his experience, and all the stories have been inspiring, influencing, and also making us look back and see how far we have come with potholes, with challenges, with hurdles, and everything else. So that was excellent. The meeting was well run. The timer kept everyone on toes, including the president and also everyone else. He didn't hesitate even for a second to clap everyone down once the allocated time has been reached. Table topics. I would go table topics master. Wonderful topics related to the theme. It was kept to the time, and you were a little bit flustered when the question has been redirected back to you, but you came with a plum. I must say that part, I wish I could do it. Oh, hopefully I'll take up that challenge. It was wonderful. And yes, we had few challenges of people dropping. If we are dropping, please do have a look at the list and see whether people have dropped so we know whom to give the topic to. Everyone spoke with authority, with heartfelt experiences, which moved me a lot. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sudha. And we are in one of those fortunate moments when we don't have any guests and everybody has had the opportunity to speak. So I will now hand control back to the club president. Thank you so much. Thank you to our Toastmaster. And thank you, everybody, and especially Sudha for giving us very succinct and concise comments so that we will hopefully manage to adjourn just a couple of minutes past meeting standard adjournment time. I would like at this point to thank everyone who contributed amazing stories, and our tech support person, Graham, who very quickly segued into the timer and also managed to watch the chat box. Everyone who did amazing roles. And you all know that the special diva, she doesn't like being called that, I think, but I will call her a diva for having organized this and poked and nudged and persisted and promising, I think, to do more so that we will be 100% online Pathways members very soon. Let us give a big round of applause. Let's unmute so we can all hear the applause. Let's give a big round of applause to Julie. We are so fortunate to have PP Education, who is setting the pace for clubs around the world, whether they're online, blended, or physical clubs. Thank you so much. And on this note, we will end the recording. I will adjourn the meeting, and then we can stay on. So now, as president of the club, I formally adjourn the meeting.